Okay, so I'm getting a lot of requests from people to ask or asking me how I go about building my arrows. And I'm sure there are many videos out there on how to do it, but I'll make my own. And this will be my first video where I'll be editing different scenes together, so be patient. What I first do is I buy blemished arrows. So I was able to buy a dozen of these for $65. And then what I did was I add 100 grain brass insert to the front of mine. What I want as an end product is 225 grains up front. That seems to work best for me. So I use 125 grain broadhead all the time. So with that and the brass insert, I get 225 grains up front. So you want to have an idea of where you're starting off with the spine. I'm not going to go into that. That you can figure out for yourself. You can get all sorts of ideas from charts and stuff. But I start off with a 500 spined arrow. So that has to do with the flexibility of the arrow. So when it's this long, it's easier to bend than if it was shorter. So the shorter I make this arrow, the stiffer the spine will become. Hopefully that makes sense. Imagine trying to bend a small stick as opposed to a nice long stick. It's just easier to do when it's longer. So when I start off with this arrow, it will be what I consider underspined. Now, let me figure that out. Let me figure out the best way to say that. So I will be underspined with it being this flexible. The tighter I get, the more it would become overspined. If I make it too stiff, we'll consider that overspined. I don't know if that's right, but that's how I'm going to phrase it. So with it being this long, it's too flexible. So if your arrow is hitting the target and the nock is over to your left, if you're a right-handed shooter, your spine is too weak. And since my spine is too weak because my arrow is too long, I'm going to shorten it in increments of, say, 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch till I can get that arrow hitting at the target where I'm aiming at a pretty straight situation. If you go too far, your nock will end up being on the right of the target. So hopefully this will make sense. If I'm shooting the arrow and it's underspined, the nock will be on this side. If it's perfect, it'll be in the middle. And then if you cut it too short and then make it too stiff, it's going to be on the right hand side. So now I'm going to step back and show you a couple shots with this arrow, and then I'll show you a couple shots with an arrow that I built in the past. This is a bear shaft that I've used from, this is a different arrow completely, but it's still a 500 spine, but I still tune it because each company could do it differently. So what I do is I cut it down into increments until this is flying straight into the target. I personally add a wrap at the end, and I don't think that's really going to change the spine. So I only do that at the end, and then I'll show you how I add this paint and that sort of stuff. But just for an example now, we're going to shoot this arrow, which is too long, and the nock end is going to end up to the left. So now I'll demonstrate that. One other thing I'm going to say right now is don't do all your tuning over a one-day period. All right. Most of the mistakes that you're going to get when you're tuning your arrows have more to do with you. So we're humans. We shoot differently each day. do your tuning over a week or so, and just make sure that you're on that particular day. So to go back to what I was saying, this is the arrow that I'm going to be cutting down. So it's too long. The spine will be too weak because it's so long, and the knock will end up on the left side of target. So I'm going to shoot at that apple right now and give you an idea. When I'm tuning my bow, even though I can't my longbow this way when I'm hunting and shooting, I try to do everything pretty much vertical when tuning. And you want to make sure your knock point is on to begin with, and I'm not going to do a video on that. So anyway, shooting at the apple. I missed the target, but the knock is way over to the left. So just to make sure that I'm shooting okay today, here's a bare shaft that I've built in the past, and I keep one of these around to check my form all the time. If you're off on any particular day, a bare shaft will tell you what's wrong. That's a homework lesson for a different day. But I'll shoot this arrow and I'll show you the difference. Okay, so again, I missed the apple, but I'm not too worried about accuracy at this point. These are the first shots of the day. I'm not too worried. But see how the first shot is way over to the left and the second shot is money. So just to prove that, again, let's do that again. So just to test our results. To change things up, I'm going to shoot the shorter arrow that I've shot in the past and dialed into my system. And we'll test that one first this time. Again, we'll just go for the apple. And we got it, and it did turn to the left, but it's hitting where I want it. And just the hitting of the apple turned to the left, I believe. So we'll try with this one, and the knock should end up to the left. And we got the same results as the first time. You're gonna have to trust me that this apple did in fact turn when I shot it. So for giggles, I'll go back and I'll shoot this arrow and I'll miss the apple. That'd be a better demonstration to see if it's going straight in or out. So I'll put this arrow right below the apple like I did with the longer one. Again, keeping everything as vertical as I can. Okay. So that should explain, well, that should show beyond a doubt that one arrow is dialed in and the arrow that is too long needs to be cut down in increments till those results start getting like that. Again, we want to cut off before we cut it too short, because then we're stuck and we got to change field points and weights and stuff. So right now I'm looking to get this arrow dialed in like that. So I'm not going to just cut it the length of the one that I know works, because I dialed that arrow in for a different bow actually. So we're going to tune these blemished arrows to my big stick assassin, and we'll go from there. So now I'm going to be cutting that long arrow down in increments of 1/4 inch to inch, quarter inch to eighth of an inch in shorter increments till I get that hitting the target dead on. So I'm going to pause for now. I'll cut my arrows down a little bit and I'll show you them dialing in, and then I'll show you one more time before I start building them. Alright, this looks like it's going to be a long video, so hopefully you're enjoying it. Alright, bye. Okay, so now what I've done is I went down and I have a table saw in the basement, so I can cut these to size however I choose. So going back to what I was explaining before, now I've cut these arrows to 3 different lengths to show you how they're going to perform. So this long one is still going to be too bendy, too flexible for my tastes, and the knock will end up to the left of where the point is in the target. The second arrow will be better, and hopefully you'll see an improvement in the knock moving more towards the center, but this third one is pretty much where I think I'm dialed in. So I haven't tried these yet. We'll try it all on video, but I know from past experience where these arrows are going to perform well for me. So let's try it, and hopefully you'll see the difference, and then at the end I'll shoot one. See, I've built these arrows before from this same arrow, so I have an idea of where I want to achieve, but I'm trying to explain it to you guys. So now I'll shoot these, and you should see a difference in where the knock ends up each time. So hopefully this is all making sense to you, because it's pretty tough to explain. So I'm going to shoot the longest one first. Going to just try to hit below that orange dot. And again, try to keep your bow as vertical as possible for these tests. So that knock is pretty far left. So now we're going to go with the middle in terms of length. And this knock should move more towards the center. And that did improve. So now we're going to go with the shortest arrow, which I think is right about where I want to end up. And I'll explain that in 1 second. So let me shoot this. And that is pretty much dead on. So let's walk up and I'll show you. So we're shooting from this angle. So this top one with the knock way left, we know is too long, because it's indicated that it's not, the spine is too weak at this point because it's too long. The second arrow that was a little longer has the knock, a little shorter, has the knock closer to center, but not dead on. That one is dead on. So you can see it went in the target dead on. From this angle, it's dead on. And the reason for this is if your bare shaft rather, is going where you want it and it doesn't need any assistance, then theoretically your feathers don't have to work that hard to correct the flight. If everything is off, your feathers are working very hard to correct that flight, and that's going to lead to less accuracy. So anyway, I think I'll call this done in terms of tuning your arrows. The next video will be about how I build them. And I guess if you have any questions on this, go ahead and hit me up. But what you want to do is start off with an arrow that you know is too bendy. So as you cut it down, you will make it stiffer, and you will find out where an arrow that works for you. So the arrow closest to me is how it came. The middle one is me cutting it down to find out where that nock is going to end up as I shoot it. And the third one is pretty much my finished product. So I'm going to now, from here on out, build these arrows. And I'll make a video about that too. Alright, y'all take care. Have a great day.